Welcome to the University of Findlay Art and Culture Show. I am your host, Sharinda, and we are very happy to welcome to the set today Lee, who is also known as Glory Daze. She is a musician, writer, and philosopher. She didn't know I was going to say that, but it's true.
I like that. I'll take it.
Yeah. Welcome.
Good to be here.
We are so happy to have you here. It's been just a little over a year since we last saw each other, and it was so much warmer, and it was so much sunnier. It was down in Florida.
So much more south.
Yes, so much more south. And so welcome to the snow. Doesn't know if it's going to blow us away wind or pelt us with ice today. It's just been a crazy weather day.
There was definitely some hail.
Yeah. So, but you have made it. You're here. You're alive. You are an independent artist, and you do some really wonderful work with sharing from your soul in the way you write music. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh man, going straight into it, huh?
That's the way we do things here.
Well, thank you, first of all, for saying that. That means a lot. I think for me, I've always loved stories. And from a young age, like I've read so many books.
Yeah, you're an avid reader. That's something you're very proud of.
Love to read.
Yeah. And it's all different styles and genres. You're not just one pony show when it comes to reading.
Not a one-trick pony. Yeah.
No.
I just love stories, and not just stories, but how they're written.
The building.
Like, to me, it's more word choice.
Yeah. Okay.
And which then I think comes through in my lyricism. I'm very particular about what words I'm going to use to describe something.
And that makes sense, because as a storyteller, you want people to be able to interpret and feel what you're feeling when you're writing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's, I could sit here or stand here and explain to you, I'm feeling like this, and you can understand, right? But you'll never be able to experience or feel what I'm feeling.
And we can even try to empathize, but we're empathizing from our point of reference and what we've experienced. So yes, I won't get it.
So I find that with music, I could be biased, but I feel like it's one of the purest forms of communication we have, because you don't just have me and the words that I'm telling you, but there's a melody to the words. There's also music underlying that, and it brings more feeling into it than just words alone could ever do.
It's kind of like a blanket. You're able to be wrapped in it. So if you're someone that needs words, you're getting the words. But if you're someone that needs to feel emotion and journey with someone,
right,
and be able to process where your journey is taking you, you're able to be wrapped up in that song, in that story, in that music. Yeah, I get
100%.
that. That's great. So there's one song in particular that caught Billboard's attention. And first, would you be willing to explain for our audience who Billboard is? Because people in the music industry, people who follow music closely, they hear Billboard and they're like, oh, ding, that's a good thing. But then there's other people that turn on the car radio and just hit, oh, I like that, but they're not going to follow. Got you.
Billboard is a music publication. I feel like I'm a dictionary right now. Like, how do I describe this? It's a pretty well-known, significant music publication, up there next to like Rolling Stone, which I feel like kind of everyone's heard of. Rolling Stone.
Yes.
It's a similar type of thing.
And they follow the charting of music, not the making charts, but where it charts in the listening, as well as they write articles and they feature artists.
Yes.
And you were honored to be featured back in the beginning of 2019. I think it was February 5th, 2019. It got posted.
Okay, all right.
And but they were featuring a song that I love the title of it. Can you tell us what the title is? Do you remember? I remember February 5th.
I'm going to be honest with you. It's one of the least thought out titles that I've ever probably done for a song.
It's so awesome.
I'm glad you feel that way.
I love it. It's like so meat and potatoes.
The whole story actually of how that song came about was very
sad.
It's well, the subject matter of the song itself is sad, but the the process of creating the song was so just kind of on a whim. And when we uploaded, a friend of mine produced it. She was living on the East Coast, and I was living on the West Coast at the time. She sent me this beat that she was making, and I wrote some stuff over it, sent it back. She's like, this is cool. And then when she was back in California, we recorded it and just like threw it up on the internet. And I wish I knew how so I could replicate it, but I don't know how, but it just took off on Spotify for some reason. And I think it's racked up like 1.2 million plays at this point, which is like...
That feels good.
Yeah, it's very validating.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
And so the title is?
Subtract and Divide.
Subtract and Divide,
right.
yes.
So to answer your question, it's called Subtract and Divide because those are essentially the last two words of the chorus, and it does kind of sum up, I guess, what the song is about, sort of.
I see how it connects to the song for sure, but just hearing Subtract and Divide, it can go so many different directions, but it's a love song.
Especially if you're dividing, then it really goes in a lot of different directions.
Into infinity! But the subtract and divide in our lives, I mean, it's something that people are afraid to talk about, and that's where you have a gift as a writer. Number one, you're willing to trust yourself and your audiences as you write. And so then that gives your audience permission to take it, absorb it, process it, and either be inspired, heal, whatever it is that they need. And Subtract and Divide does that. And what I love about it is that it's a story that it's a sad journey. You're saying goodbye to one relationship, but then the video is the strength of an individual saying goodbye but still living and getting their energy from a new source, and to feel the heartbeat and to watch that. It's just such a motivating, inspiring video. And I know why it's had so many hits, because it just hits so many pinpoints where people are afraid to go sometimes. You're honest with it, and you give that as a gift. That says a lot as an artist.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's important. There so much, especially now that we don't have to go through record labels and A&R and stuff to become an artist or to put music out for everyone to hear. So because it's so accessible, music has become sort of more commodified, where people are trying to figure out ways to mathematically, okay, how can I write a hit song? As opposed to, what am I feeling? How do I communicate this?
Is there an audience that wants to hear it? Yeah.
Well, that's the the ultimate fear of every artist. Like, does anyone care?
Right, but it still goes back to a title. That Subtract and Divide. That you're doing that. I'm doing that in so many different compartments of my life. And you named a song that. That's great.
I'm glad you think so. It's funny, that song, I think that song's like going on 4 or 5 years old now. So I'm like, as you're saying this, I'm trying to refresh my memory, but it really has stuck with people, and I'm super proud of it, and it's brought me a lot of opportunities.
And you've had some really neat opportunities, both in studio as well as in touring. And is there one in touring that really stands out that it was like an aha moment? As an artist, it validated you. Yes, it's great that people are following me online, but to be someplace live and to do a show. And I read one place that you had said the most comfortable place for you in the world is 3 songs into a show.
Yeah, that's very true.
I love that.
That's very true. First song, not so much. Second song, third song, I'm like, oh, I love this. I want to do it every day. But before, the least comfortable place for me is, the day before the show, when I'm like, oh, my throat, I think my throat's hurting. I'm achy. I'm so tired. It's stage fright is a
thing.
Is a real thing, and I actually didn't realize that that's what it was for a long time until someone finally was like, you realize that you do this
every time
before a show, and I was like, You're right. Okay. Maybe there's something to it. So I've gotten better at just telling myself to calm down. But yeah, it's. I think, because you really care and you want to put on a good show, and I always have my number one fear, like before I go on stage, is that I'm gonna get out there and my voice is just gonna come out as this croak, and I don't know, it's like a drummer friend of mine who I used to work with a lot would say, like, I always feel like I'm gonna get there and I won't remember how to hold the drumsticks. It's it's a thing that happens where
brain freeze.
Yeah, it's just fear. It's fear. But once I've had a chance to settle in a bit, it's just like it's such a high, but it's like a very grounded high. And I just feel, I don't want to say like I have the room in my palm, because that feels a little bit like a hierarchy and like condescending, but I just feel like
they're there to have a conversation with you, and they're listening.
Exactly. It feels like a conversation. And I'm actually glad you said conversation, because I like for my shows to be as much of a conversation as possible. It's a lot of pressure to get up there and be like, I'm just going to be so entertaining the whole time, And that's not to say I'm like pulling someone up on stage and talking to them, but
you mean kind of like this?
Right. I like for it to feel more casual, and not so much like, look at me, I'm like so perfect and untouchable, but to really be like, this is like, these are all the things that I'm afraid of, and like.
So a little organic.
Yeah, and I think just like being honest and touching on the things that I think like most, if not all, people feel, but that we are afraid, ashamed to talk about, or socially, or taught like. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about that. Those are the things that need to be sort of opened up, like, cut open and looked at. And I think that's something that I realize that I sort of do for people, is like provide a space for like to look at those things and be like, it's okay, So
you're gifted in storytelling, but you're also maybe the gatekeeper, where some people have felt the gate has been locked, where you're there with a key to give them permission maybe for that hour to feel safe and really process and have
I don't know if it's a key so much as like a ramming, like busted open.
Yeah, let's do this now.
We're not, I guess I do try to ease into it, but I don't like to shy away from going directly to.
So knowing that about you and that description, what was one of those moments where someone came up afterwards and you're like, I'm glad I touched their life, but what you just gave me touched my life too? Have you had any of those moments?
I think the first time, he's now a friend of mine. At the time, we didn't know each other, but this guy had just happened to be at a show of mine at Hotel Cafe, where a lot of like super talented artists play. I mean, people just go there not knowing who's playing, and you always
enjoy.
There's always, it's like an honor to even play there. And
where is that located?
It's in Los Angeles and Hollywood. It's right in the middle of Hollywood. Yeah.
We forgot to tell people where you are.
Right.
So that helps.
I know.
Okay. So excited to talk, I forgot to say, where do you come from?
Los Angeles, for the record.
Home is LA, yeah.
Born and raised.
Yeah.
Yeah, now living in Louisville, though.
Okay.
But, yeah, we'd become friends, and he was sort of he's a lawyer, and so he was helping me with some music planning and stuff like that.
Sure.
And it's funny because he said this, and then like shortly after, I heard it from multiple people, but he was the first one that said to me, like, it feels like you're a healer. And I would never have described myself like that before, and I didn't, at first I was like,
That's a lot of weight.
What are you talking about at first? But he kind of, it's sort of what we were just talking about too.
That's what I was thinking in the back of my head.
It's exactly what we were just talking about, where it's like by me being vulnerable, and a big part of my live show too is the banter in between songs. Mm-hmm. And so, I'll sing something absolutely gut-wrenching, and then afterwards I'm like, I'm all right, guys, it's cool, like, we're okay. But not being afraid to go there, but also knowing how to come back up, and being like, it's like all of this is important to experience. Mm-hmm. And that was like a really special moment where it shifted the way that I saw myself, because I think a lot of times, like when you're going into a place where you're writing like a gut-wrenching song, you don't like necessarily feel good. And so because I'm so far inside of the song and inside of the experience, I'm like, is this too like dark for people, or is this, do people want to hear this stuff? And they do. Mm-hmm. They do. Mm-hmm.
They need confirmation they're not the only one going through it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And it's so neat that that message was delivered by someone that you trusted and that you were building the relationship with, because it was dealing with the industry. But then to get that confirmation multiple times back to back.
Yeah, it was like very shortly after that, which was interesting.
It's so neat when life does that,
Yeah.
So we've had moments of challenge, moments of happiness. Mm-hmm. We travel on the road, we do set work. If people are interested in connecting with you and they say, I want to get to know Glory Daze better, where are you in the world of cyber that people can connect with you?
I'm on the internet.
You are.
I am on the internet. You can find me everywhere at Hey Glory Daze. It's Hey like as in hi hey, and then Glory Daze is just the word Glory. Daze is D-A-Z-E, not days of the week. Mm-hmm. HeyGloryDaze.com, Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. There's some funny stuff there, but I don't really post. So.
And Facebook. I know you have some stuff there.
Yeah.
So.
Instagram's probably the best way.
Yeah. I think that's the go-to now.
Yeah, the latest. I haven't really gotten
But grandmas
into
and grandpas like
yet.
Facebook, so they'll go and find you on Facebook.
That's true.
I'm kind of a grandma. I like Facebook. It's just that so many of my students and alumni are there. It's easy to keep connected.
It's pretty universal.
It is. So do you have any albums that are out right now that people can check out? I know you've got some singles.
I've got some pretty old. I have like an old EP, my first EP online right now. Subtracting Divide is out there for anyone who wants to find it.
Which is a great video.
And I'm actually I've been working on an EP for a while now that's pretty much done. I'm waiting to get the final masters back, and then that'll be coming out shortly. So I'm really excited because it's been a long time. Well,
it takes time, and then even though COVID separates us and so many musicians have their own home studios and stuff, it still takes even longer with everything that's been going on over the last year to get things finalized.
No
because
kidding.
Especially in the world of entertainment, everybody went to the same circuits to do the same thing. Right. And so if people are great at producing, they're in demand, and that slows down production. So it's exciting when you're in the home stretch of creating an album. Mm-hmm. And we could do a whole nother segment on the journey of a album. And
we could do a full series, honestly.
A few series. That's what you can do next. You can do a reality show on making an album. Well, we are so glad that during this national tour you had the opportunity to stop by. It's always great to see you and
Thanks for having me.
To celebrate your successes and your talents. And we are excited that you have joined us today. We look forward to you checking out Glory Daze in the world of cyber. And we also look forward to seeing you the next time on the Art and Culture Show. Until then, be well.